First contact under fire. The anomaly appeared on Maya Kedar's monitoring screen at precisely 3:47 a.m. Earth Standard Time. For 6 years, the Ganymede Deep Space Listening Post had detected nothing more interesting than the occasional pulsar or background radiation. But this was different. Dr. Kedar, you should see this, called her assistant, Thomas, his voice betraying unusual excitement. The pattern recognition software is going crazy. Maya abandoned her lukewarm coffee and moved to the main console. The signal pulsed across her screen in regular, deliberate intervals. Too structured to be natural. Too sophisticated to be coincidence. Run full spectrum analysis, she ordered, her heart suddenly pounding. And contact Director Harlow. Now. Within hours, the quiet listening post transformed into a hive of activity as specialists from Earth arrived via emergency shuttle. The signal's origin point, a star system designated HT 85,512, approximately 36 light-years from Earth. It's clearly artificial, Maya explained to the assembled experts. And based on the encoding structure, it appears to be a communication attempt rather than a natural technological byproduct. Director Harlow, a severe woman with steel-gray hair, frowned. Are we certain it's directed at us? This could be communication between two alien entities. The signal uses mathematical sequences as a foundation, Maya replied, pulling up her analysis. Prime numbers, the value of pi, basic physical constants, universal concepts that any technological civilization would recognize. This is a deliberate attempt to make first contact with anyone listening. 3 days of continuous analysis yielded a breakthrough. The translation matrix finally decoded enough to understand the heart of the message, and what they found silenced the room. To any spacefaring civilization receiving this transmission, we are the Zerithians of the HD 85,512 system. Our civilization faces imminent extinction at the hands of the Thrakan Empire. Our defensive capabilities have been overwhelmed. Our colonies have fallen. Our homeworld stands on the precipice of destruction. We offer knowledge, resources, and eternal friendship to any who might render aid. Please respond. Time is critical. The message included detailed star charts, biological information about the Zerithian species, and technical data regarding their attackers. Earth's response was anything but unified. The United Earth Coalition Security Council convened an emergency session that lasted for 5 tense days. This is not our fight, argued Representative Chen from the Eastern Alliance. We've barely established our first extrasolar colonies. We cannot risk drawing the attention of a hostile power capable of destroying an advanced civilization. Ambassador Okafor from the African Confederation stood in opposition. If we ignore this plea, what does that say about humanity? That our first act on the galactic stage was to turn away from those in need. What kind of species does that make us? A surviving one, retorted General Williams of the North American Union. For all we know, this could be an elaborate trap. In her temporary quarters, Maya pored over the Zerithian data. They appeared to be a mammalian species with an emphasis on collective social structures. Their technological development had focused primarily on environmental adaptation, medicine, and communication, with comparatively limited weapons technology. They're technological pacifists, she explained to Captain Elias Morgan over a shared meal in the facility's cafeteria. Their cultural philosophy emphasizes harmony over dominance. They developed faster-than-light communication, decades before weaponry that could match it. Morgan, recently assigned to command the United Earth Coalition's most advanced vessel, the UEC Horizon, nodded thoughtfully, making them the perfect target for a predatory empire. After nearly a week of debate, the UEC reached its decision. Humanity would respond, not with their full military might, but with a small contingent to assess the situation firsthand. The Horizon, with its experimental dark space drive, would reach HD 85,512 in just under 4 months. We're not promising military intervention, Director Harlow informed Maya. But we need someone familiar with the Zerithian communication patterns and biology. You're joining the mission. The journey gave the crew ample time to prepare. Captain Morgan drilled his people relentlessly in combat scenarios against theoretically superior technology. Maya worked with the science team to improve their understanding of Zerithian biology and culture. Their message contains significant technological data, explained Chief Engineer Rosario during a briefing. If these specifications about Thrakan weaponry are accurate, their capabilities exceed ours by at least a century of development. Morgan's expression remained impassive. Then we'll have to be smarter, not stronger. The horizon emerged from dark space at the edge of the HD 85,512 system, and the scene that greeted them confirmed their worst fears. The inner planets showed evidence of massive bombardment. Debris fields of destroyed vessels and stations littered orbital paths, and in orbit around the third planet, the Zerithian homeworld, 5 massive Thrakan warships methodically demolished what remained of the planet's defensive network. Life signs on the surface? Morgan asked, his voice steady despite the grim tableau. Affirmative, reported Lieutenant Commander Park from the sensor station. Population centers primarily underground. I'm also detecting approximately 24 Zerithian vessels making desperate defensive runs against the Thrakan ships. They're still fighting, Maya whispered, a mixture of horror and admiration in her voice. Morgan straightened in his command chair. Open a channel on the frequency the Zerithians provided in their message. When the connection established, he spoke clearly and confidently. This is Captain Elias Morgan of the United Earth Coalition vessel Horizon. We received your distress call and have come to render assistance. Please advise on the current situation. The response came seconds later, a burst of sounds that the translation system quickly rendered into English. You came. You actually came. We had lost all hope. The Thrakan fleet has destroyed our orbital defenses. They will begin planetary bombardment within hours. Their ships are concentrated on our northern hemisphere. Do the Thrakan know we're here? Morgan asked his tactical officer. Negative, Captain. They appear focused on the remaining Zerithian defenses. Morgan nodded once, decision made. Signal the Zerithian vessels. Tell them to fall back to these coordinates. Then ready all weapons systems. We're about to introduce ourselves to the Thrakan Empire. Maya watched the massive enemy warships on the view screen. The horizon, impressive by human standards, was dwarfed by the Thrakan vessels. What can one ship possibly do against that? Morgan's lips curved into a grim smile. We're about to find out. Throughout human history, it's never been the size of the force that matters most. It's the willingness to stand against impossible odds that defines us. Tactical, target the nearest Thrakan vessel and fire when ready. The horizon surged forward, weapons charging, as humanity prepared to make its presence known to the galaxy, not through grand proclamations or diplomatic overtures, but through the simple act of standing between the helpless and their destroyers. The unexpected alliance. The first volley from the UEC horizon struck the nearest Thrakan warship with negligible effect, the energy weapons dissipating harmlessly against advanced shielding. But the attack achieved its primary purpose. The Thrakan now knew humanity had arrived. They're turning to engage, reported Lieutenant Commander Park. Energy signatures indicate weapon systems powering up. Evasive pattern Delta, ordered Captain Morgan calmly. Deploy countermeasures and prepare for secondary attack run. The horizon darted away with surprising agility for its size, releasing a cloud of sensor-jamming particles that momentarily confused the Thrakan targeting systems. Their return fire tore through empty space as the human vessel executed a series of unpredictable maneuvers. Their weapons systems are designed for large-scale planetary bombardment and capital ship engagements, Maya observed, studying the tactical display. They're not optimized for tracking smaller, faster targets. Morgan nodded. Exactly. Chief Engineer Rosario. Status on the modified torpedoes. Ready, Captain. We've reconfigured them according to the specifications derived from the Zerithian data. Traditional explosives wrapped around a core of zero-point energy cells. The initial detonation should create microsecond weakening in their shield harmonics. It was a desperate gambit based on theoretical analysis of the Thrakan shielding technology described in the Zerithian transmission. The human vessel swung around in a tight arc, approached the massive Thrakan flagship, and launched 3 modified torpedoes in rapid succession. The first torpedo detonated against the shields with no visible effect. The second created a barely perceptible flicker in the energy barrier. The third, timed precisely to strike at that moment of instability, punctured through and detonated against the hull. A cheer erupted on the horizon's bridge as secondary explosions loomed across a section of the Thrakan vessel. "Direct hit," exclaimed Park. "We've damaged their port weapons array." "Don't celebrate yet," Morgan cautioned. "We've just made them angry." The Thrakan response was immediate and overwhelming. All 5 warships broke off their planetary bombardment to converge on the human vessel. Energy beams lanced out, one grazing the horizon's hull and sending tremors throughout the ship. "Shields at 62%, reported the tactical officer. "We can't take many hits like that." Maya gripped her console as the ship executed another evasive maneuver. "The Zerithians are regrouping their remaining vessels. They're moving to support us." Morgan shook his head. "Tell them to hold position. Their ships won't survive direct engagement." "Sir," Park interrupted, "I'm detecting new signatures entering the system. Multiple vessels approaching at high velocity." On the main view screen, spatial distortions formed as a dozen sleek vessels of unfamiliar design dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Their hulls gleamed with an iridescent, crystalline quality. "We're receiving a transmission," Maya announced. It's not Zerithian or Thrakan." A new voice filled the bridge, the translation matrix struggling momentarily before rendering it into English. "This is First Sentinel Velinar of the Arcturian Conclave. We monitored the Zerithian distress call, but hesitated to intervene against the Thrakan alone. Then we detected your vessel, an unknown species traveling vast distances to defend strangers. If you would stand for the Zerithians, we shall stand with you." More arrivals followed. The biomechanical high ships of the Loriani Collective, the gravity-manipulating cruisers of the Vosh Imperium, and vessels from 3 other spacefaring civilizations. Each had received the Zerithian plea, each had initially calculated that intervention was too risky, and each had been shocked into action by humanity's solitary stand. The tide of battle shifted dramatically. The Thrakan, accustomed to overwhelming isolated victims, found themselves confronted by 7 different species, each employing different technologies and tactics. The Arcturians' phase-shifting weapons bypassed shields entirely. The Loriani deployed swarms of microscopic drones that infiltrated hull breaches to attack from within. The Vosh created localized gravity wells that disrupted Thrakan engine systems. And throughout it all, the Horizon darted between larger vessels, its human crew adapting their tactics moment by moment, coordinating the disparate alien forces into a cohesive fighting unit. Within hours, the remaining Thrakan vessels retreated from the system, leaving behind 2 crippled warships and thousands of stunned allies. In the aftermath, representatives from each species gathered aboard a surviving Zerithian orbital platform for the first interspecies council in human history. Maya found herself translating as Captain Morgan addressed the assembled delegates. "The Zerithians asked for help when they had no hope left," Morgan stated simply. "We came because we couldn't stand by and watch an innocent species be destroyed, not when we had the power to act, however limited that power might be." The Zerithian High Speaker, a tall being with silvery fur and large, luminous eyes, gestured with elegant 6-fingered hands. "We have monitored 17 systems fall to the Thrakan because each species faced them alone. None considered that different worlds might unite. Perhaps that is what this galaxy has been missing," offered the Arcturian First Sentinel, its crystalline form refracting light in hypnotic patterns. Not advanced technology or overwhelming firepower, but simply the courage to be the first to extend a hand in friendship. The Council concluded with the formation of a mutual defense alliance, not just against the Thraken, who would surely return, but for cultural, scientific, and technological exchange. Earth, despite its comparative technological inferiority, was granted a central role in the diplomatic framework, its representatives seen as the catalyst that had united previously isolated civilizations. Later, as the Horizon prepared for its journey home, Maya joined Captain Morgan in the observation lounge. Together, they watched as vessels from 7 different worlds worked in concert to rebuild Zerithian orbital stations. "It's remarkable," Maya said softly. "For centuries, we've wondered if we were alone in the universe. We built radio telescopes and sent out probes with golden records. We debated whether to fear alien contact or welcome it. And it turns out," Morgan continued, "that the rest of the galaxy was doing exactly the same thing. They were all out there, watching and waiting, isolated by the same fear and uncertainty that kept humanity looking to the stars, but never finding anyone. Until someone was desperate enough to ask for help," Maya finished. "And someone else was foolish enough, or perhaps human enough, to answer," Morgan added with a slight smile. "You know what I find most interesting? The Thraken had better weapons, better shields, better everything, except, apparently, better hearts." Maya nodded thoughtfully. "In all our preparations for first contact, we focused on technology, what we might learn, what we might need to defend against. Nobody considered that our greatest contribution to galactic society might simply be our compassion. As the Horizon began its journey back to Earth, carrying news that would forever change human history, a simple message propagated across interstellar communications networks. It spread from the Zerithians to their neighbors, and outward in an expanding wave of transmission. There is a new species among the stars. They call themselves humans. They are not the strongest, nor the most advanced. But when we faced extinction and asked for help, they came without hesitation. Remember their name. Remember their courage. Remember their compassion." In the vast darkness between stars, humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy not through conquest or technological marvels, but through an act of simple, profound compassion, proving that sometimes the price of compassion is worth paying, even against impossible odds.